Hi Lee, welcome to SMB. Thank you for coming in. This morning, obviously we know each other reasonably well, but one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about, because it's very important in the workspace for us, is resilience.
Yes. Stubbornness, that's more like it.
Exactly. Well, how you like. No, but lawyers, my colleagues and so on, and people who aren't lawyers here, need to be pretty resilient. It's a very stressful job, I guess, and there's always a lot going on. And it's not a problem, but we have to learn in our own way to be reasonably resilient. But I mean, it's nothing compared to what you've been through. Well, so we wanted to explore the issue of resilience.
Well, it's a journey. Each person puts a different level of stress upon themselves. You could be a street cleaner and still put the stress and pressure on yourself at your work.
Yeah, I mean, why do we?
At all levels, we all want to achieve our best. Be the best that we can be.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so let me, if you don't mind, start at the end, because what you've done, and you're now pretty well known, and you're often in the newspapers, and you're often doing things like this. Today, how are you feeling about life in general and the post office scandal, and talk to us maybe a bit about how Mr. Bates v. the post office was the game changer, or not?
Well, it certainly was. I mean, for me, right at this moment in time, I'm in a really good place. This is what I call the freewheeling downhill bit. It's really easy. I get to talk to loads of people that listen, that never, maybe didn't engage with me previously, and I feel very listened to, and I feel very humbled by that as well, to be fair.
Sorry, do you mean listened to by people like who? Post office top brass?
Media, post office top brass, legal people that have been involved with the post office and outside of that. I've met 2 prime ministers, I've met numerous MPs. I've never ever felt so listened to in my life.
Okay, that's so interesting, isn't it? Because you take starting from a point where you're pilloried, you're a disgrace, you're driven out of your town, your daughter has some horrible stuff happen to her, which we'll come to talk to, I'm afraid. But you're in a good place. What has been the shift? It sounds incredible.
Well, I think it's just, obviously the drama was huge. It made everybody, the whole cohort, the whole 555 become very human. And I think in your front rooms, winter's night, you tend to open your arms to things that are happening on TV, and I think it was very real. So I think it opened many doors for the group to be heard.
Do you think that, were it not for the programme, and massive shout out I think to Natasha Bonnedy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Were it not for the group, were it not for the programme, do you think it would have just rumbled on, the scandal?
Years and years ago I talked to a lovely lady from the BBC called Castleton, who's our local news reporter, very bouncy, effervescent, lovely BBC reporter, and we were going through a terrible time with mediation at the time, and Post Office were trying to collapse mediation, and it was a really tough time for the whole group, because we really thought that we got some traction, and we really thought that we were changing things, and then all of a sudden it just collapsed really quickly. And she came to Bridlington to interview me, and she said, right, she's really buzzing and really sort of, as I say, effervescent. And she said, what's it all about? And I said, well, it's accounts and computers. And she just went grey. And she said, no, we can't do anything about people who just turn off. We need to make it about human beings, because the effects that it has on the family and the way that people are treated and the way people treat you in the street and just in general life is very important. And I think people warm to that, the real character behind it. And I learned a lesson, and I was schooled that day, and I appreciate it every day as a school day.
Fantastic. So even though you must be incredibly frustrated, because here you are, when were you Subpostmaster?
2003.
Yeah, so more than 20 years on, and you're still fighting for you and for others and so on. And interestingly, on your LinkedIn profile, how you describe yourself, which we'll come back to. But the frustration, you're smiling, you're freewheeling, as you say. So the frustration is not the overarching thing at the moment.
I'm not frustrated. I really am. I'm in a really good place. I feel you know, we've weathered the storm. Everyone has tough times in their life,
Mhm.
whatever it might be. I was particularly revolved around the post office. Other people have medical issues that are lifelong, and I understand. You know, I get it. I really do.
So Lee, to take us back, you're in your you're in your post office. It's it's going well. I don't need to go through granular detail like calling the Horizon Helpline 91 times and so on. But can I ask you this, because I don't think this one has been often asked, why were you one of the postmasters that wasn't arrested? Because so many of them were arrested and so on. Why did you avoid, do you know why you avoided prosecution?
In simple terms, I pestered them to death, told them that there were misbalances every week.
Right.
Some people, it happened over a course of just 1 week, huge misbalances, and that made them look as though they'd been hiding something, which clearly they hadn't. There was clearly a system issue. For me, it happened over a 12-week period, and I just pestered them to death. So they couldn't say.
You knew
Yeah,
that worst.
I'd always been open about the fact of the balances. So,
right. So by pestering them and just that's why you didn't, because
they must have hated me.
because you were like.
I did ask for police involvement right from day one.
Because you had nothing.
Nothing to hide. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But I was told that it wasn't for me to say, it was for them to decide, and they decided that it was a civil matter between myself and themselves.
So they then, and we know the story, so we don't need to go through that in any detail, but they then sued you for the balance you owed. How much did you?
25,000.
25,000 quid. They sued you for that, and then made you bankrupt because you couldn't pay the sum and you couldn't pay the fees, which were.
So in real terms, I actually applied for bankruptcy. I'd gone through a process of asking them to make. I was desperate to come back down here to the city to earn more money, really, to allow us to pay off our debt. They never replied to any of my pleas of being able to work out some kind of payment terms. My biggest fear was going back out to work, leaving my wife to deal with the potential of the court turning, court officer turning up and saying you haven't paid this amount of money.
And when did the debt from the law firm, that their costs, because you lost, they won, so their costs were I think £321,000.
Yeah.
When did that crystallise? When did you suddenly think, I've got to pay? Or maybe you didn't think I've got to pay, but is that why you went bankrupt?
It was pure. I mean, my own personal debt was about 8,500.
Right.
And obviously the 321,000 was the primary reason for seeking bankruptcy, and it crystallised pre-summer 2007. So the judgment was handed down in January, and I repeatedly wrote every month to try and get some kind of payment terms, looking at potentially paying off the debt over a period of time.
Even the costs, even the losing
absolutely.
costs.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and did you feel when you were going through that? You knew you hadn't done anything wrong, but you didn't like having the debt. And did you feel, especially in light now with hindsight, we've heard the lawyers in question being questioned at the inquiry a lot. Did you feel then that they were taking advantage of the fact that you were a litigant person because your funding had run out, so you were on your own? Did you feel that? Did you feel the system's against me?
Absolutely. I mean, the reversal of burden of proof was key. To try and overturn something that a technical specialist from Fujitsu was saying was working correctly was very difficult in court, and I appreciate the legalities of that. I didn't at the time, to be fair. I appreciate it a lot more now. It's a lot easier to look back and realise how futile my attempts were. But in real terms, I'd lost a battle, not a war, and I knew that wasn't going to be the end. And I knew that even if I'd managed to pay off the post office, the High Court said that without paying £50,000 into the court, I wasn't allowed to appeal.
Right.
And my plan was really, honestly, to pay £50,000, or if they'd allowed me to come back down here and earn real salary, real money, I would have paid that and just gone again.
Do you think, Lee, that they used you as a bit of an example? Because just looking at it as an outsider, for those purposes, it obviously this is what we will do. This is the choice you face, postmasters. If you take us on, you will feel the full weight of the law. And look what happened to Lee Castleton.
Absolutely. There are letters out there. A good friend of mine that's no longer with us, Raj Bilku, bless him, was written to by my post office to say exactly those terms. You know, to say that the potential of losing the case would be £1 million. It was a few years later. And they quoted my case, the case itself, including the HQ code from the High Court, and said, you need to read this because you don't want to end up like Lee Castleton, which, hey, that's an example.
And do you hold resentment against those people? Or?
Not all. Not one iota. I was just a number, wasn't I?
Yeah.
It would have been John Smith or
whoever,
Phil Brown or whatever. It didn't matter, and it was never like that really. It was just I was in a bad place. I just got caught in the middle of a tsunami of a company needing to make an example of somebody.
So thanks, Lee. Do you think, talk a little bit about the inquiry, then we might talk about your family a little bit. How do you think the inquiry has been? Have you attended at all?
It's been very expensive.
Okay, all right. I've got no idea how much it's cost.
Okay, up to now it's £48 million.
Is that £48 million? So that's the whole thing?
No, well, up until now, and 50 million potentially.
I wonder whether that...
Justice is expensive in this country, isn't it?
That is eye-watering, because they say that the costs of the external lawyers bought to defend the post office and so on exceed...
Preparation was £700,000 for coaching. What kind of coaching do you get for £700,000?
Especially since some of the evidence that we've seen.
How can that be right, though, as well?
Yeah.
How can it be okay to put a bill into any taxpayer-funded company, whether it be post office or into the inquiry for £700,000 for coaching? Can't be right, can it?
No, I don't
I think there needs to be some kind of looking at that.
Yeah, well, hopefully there will be, because we know that the law firms who sent witnesses there, wrongdoing law firms, I'm going to call it out for what it was, charged their time several hundred thousands of pounds, and there's a lot of, I mean, the figure, it's not anecdotal, it's more than £250 million, that's £250 million the post office spent on external legal fees, fighting the likes of you.
But also,
astonishing, isn't it?
Even the truth of the matter really is that even since the end of the GLO case, when the Flat Earth Society, as it was called, was outed, more than £100 million has been spent by Post Office in defending something that they knew was wrong. It's a whole new level.
Are you worried, Lee, that, as with Grenfell, by the time the inquiry came out, tragically it was so far too late for some, that's going to be the case in the post office as well?
251 deaths up till now. We're losing people weekly. Yeah. Sadly, our group are not getting younger, and I think it's purposeful. I think people are doing this on purpose, spiteful people.
So you just want things sorted, done,
This should
settled.
Never have been in the hands of the wrongdoers. The whole schemes that have been put in hand of UKGI or whatever way you want to say it, DBT or BIS or whomever, or Post Office, should never have had any involvement. They could have put this into an external group of people that would have sorted this very quickly. There's no empathy,
No, I do know that. Do you think that part of the problem, actually a cause of the problem, might be the Post Office's lawyers? Because if they, seeing the fees, rather than withdrawing, perpetuate the schemes and...
So one of the things that have been sort of a theme is, on one particular occasion, one of our group had placed a claim, in her claim, for the costs of going to her, after post-prosecution, to go to her meetings, with the... So they had the signature at the parole meeting of attendance, and they knew where she lived, and part of her claim was for the bus fare, to and from. So at £250 a legal letter, they wanted receipts back and forth, numerous letters, back and forth, can we have receipts, from 2008.
But I mean, no one keeps bus tickets from 2008. So,
But they knew that the journey had been made because the person lived there and parole was there. You know, it's just disingenuous. It's so contemptuous and disgusting.
it's to make people give up the ghost, isn't it? And to stop, because you can't fight that, can you?
No.
You just give up the ghost.
What do you do? I mean, you can't just make them, can you?
Yeah. And if you, I mean, what needs to be the shift? How do you think we hear you? We're not going to hear Sir Win until probably early summer at best. Do you think that people should just wait for Sir Win, because that's what so many people are saying? That's what Fujitsu is saying. That's what others are saying.
I think that's been the theme, though. We were waiting for Fraser, bless him.
Yeah.
You know, right back then, CCRC were waiting for Fraser. Many people had to wait for the overturning of convictions, for the outcome of the civil case. Is that really primary? Is that something that moves a criminal overturning? You know, justice delayed is justice. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, why is it always somebody else that has to report before something's done?
So the Lee Castleton solution would be, in short, they've designated £1.8 billion. There will be people with complicated claims and arguments about this point or that point. There will be Fujitsu contributions, but the Lee Castleton solution is just like, you pledge this money, get on and pay it.
We've had a mediation where our claims were valued in 2013. Okay, it's simple maths from there to now. They could just work out. Nothing's really changed for most of the group. Right. We then had our claims valued for the GLO. Again.
Yeah.
Now we're having them valued
again
for the schemes. These, you know, the modest claims, to be fair, in terms of commerciality, they could be so much bigger, you know, huge claims.
Unquantifiable, given that lives have been destroyed.
But people are being very realistic and very understanding about, you know, what's going on, and they're very accepting of the fact that they want to get to the end, but not on the other side. And I would say that the 1.8 billion that's been set aside by the Treasury is really, really important to the group. That maybe the 1.8 million goes to the right people and not the lawyer's side.
Yeah, absolutely.
And every time we go through that process of fighting every single point, it may well be a valid legal point, but that is not the ethos of the scheme. The scheme, you know, the justice has been tested in court. We've been through that. Yeah. The rights and the wrongs of the behaviour has been proven in court. Let's make people get to the end of this, realising that some of their life is left in which to enjoy. We have people dying out of our group that deserve comfort.
Yeah. And look, let's change tack a little bit. Talking about people outside the group, and obviously there's all your families terribly affected.
Yeah.
I know your wife Lisa. I haven't met your kids. How are they all coping?
The Castletons are doing very well, thank you. And you know, Millie's teaching, and she's
what age kids?
So
what age kids is she teaching?
11 to 16, so quite a difficult environment. But she thrives on that, and she's doing really well. She teaches history, and locally she lives at home with Lisa and I. We've moved to a beautiful little house in a village just outside Scarborough, which we were both born in Scarborough, so it's quite wonderful to be there.
And do you think she ever thought, when she was growing up at school, and we all know about the horrible abuse that she suffered, do you think she ever thought her dad was a bad apple and might be stealing money on the side? Or
I hope not. We've discussed it at great length.
Yeah.
I think we've got probably a bond. You know, it's very deep and very understanding. I think she's
in a good
tough person. Yeah. Probably too tough. That's the problem. Probably she's like a mum. A mum's very. They tend to hold everything in, and that's not good for you. And we've got over that. I just have this really nice feeling that we're in a position now where we're able to talk openly. It's out there. The drama helped that. The press coverage has helped that. It's been very cathartic, you know, the whole thing. And I think that the recognition sometimes is a little bit difficult. People will just stop you in the street.
Oh, selfies and things like that.
Yeah. Which is, you know, and there's a lot of empathy. And I really appreciate the fact that, you know, people are very very thoughtful?
Well, I think that
Because people weren't very thoughtful at the time.
I know. Well, the members of the public have done a 360. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you are kind of loved now and admired and so on from being treated like dirt for stealing pensioners' money, apparently.
Yeah.
So this is the resilience theme that we haven't really talked about. So the Castletons have shown incredible resilience and things. And
So many though.
I was going to say, what about the group? They're just
the group. We have an inspirational group. You know, without the group, without all of the group, and everybody has a different sort of angle to that, and everyone has a different facet. Everyone brings a different theme, a different point in the group. I mean, I have a WhatsApp between the group that is just thousands of messages a day.
how can you keep up with them?
Well, I've had to turn off because it was just killing my battery on the phone. And in a way, that's inspirational, isn't it? And it's never been about one person.
Yeah.
You know, people like Jo Hamilton that's being fully compensated. You know, she's living her life. She's finally in that zone now where she can get on with her life and make decisions and move forward. But she still puts herself out there. She still fights for the group because it means so much to her and she means so much to us.
Yeah, fantastic. So let me ask you a few questions, pretending we're on an ITV quiz show or something like that now. Starter for 10. But Lee, I was going to say, what do you think from your life experience and all of this, what's the worst thing you can say to someone who's really down on their knees? Or just...
Gosh.
Difficult question, really.
It is, yeah. Most people would want you just to shake yourself out of it. Sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you need to be pulled out, you know. Sometimes you have to be pulled out by your bootlaces, and just sometimes people can do that with the tiniest little effort. Other people, you know, they need to work harder, but to do that. But life changes. You've got to tomorrow.
You've got to that.
Change.
And what about the best thing someone can say to you when you're in that terrible low?
Offer support, any kind of support. Even if it's an empty offer, it doesn't matter. Just to offer support to somebody is probably the greatest thing you can do.
And do you think that having resilience that you've obviously shown with the post office in one area of your life, do you think that then extends to other areas of your life?
I'm just stubborn.
Are you Taurian by any chance?
No, I'm a Capricorn.
Okay, I don't know my star, so I don't know. But are you a stubborn person?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
And Lisa, is she stubborn?
No, she's very, she's quite easygoing, and I mean, when you think about it, you know, she took my word. You know, I kept saying, you know, I haven't taken anything. She didn't have to believe me. We've been married for 33 years, and bless her, she's stuck by it. She took all of that on the chin. You know, it wasn't just me; it was the whole family.
Well, I can tell you're stubborn because if you call the helpline like 91 times, you're not someone who's
going to get an answer.
You're not going to give
I
up.
just upset people.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And people have been crushed by an accident or sudden illness,
Yeah.
or anything, or say
That's
that
hard, isn't it?
Say that there are benefits from a disaster, and your disaster was a different disaster. But have you found that there have been benefits from this awful?
Well, certainly the group. You know, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people in the group that I would never have met, and that hold very dear. You know, myself now.
Yeah.
Bless. One of the members of the group, we were driving down south last week on the M1, and we were talking to one of the members of the group that was driving north, and we stopped at 11:30 in the evening, having both had very long days. We stopped on the same services, crossed the bridge to have a coffee together. Now, you know,
that is proper bonding, isn't it?
just to have a catch up and to chat, and I think that's just wonderful. You know, that's the kind of group that I'm involved with, and it should inspire people to be, you know, to be the best you can be in the group. You know.
I mean, I think that for my involvement, we're here to talk about you, not me, but I've got to know some incredible people through my dealings with this scandal and with the legal side. I think that we should never forget that there's incredible people involved. I mean,
without doubt.
Yeah, some of the barristers, some of the campaigners.
You know, some of the people last night I was talking to Carl Flinders and
Computer Weekly journalist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He sat there and said, "Oh well, you know, I've done nothing compared to what I've done, being me, and I said, "You're kidding! You've written 500 plus stories about the group. Who would do that? Because nobody cared 20 years ago. But Computer Weekly cared.
He truly, people like him, Nick Wallace,
Absolutely.
Paul
I've been
Marshall.
talking to Nick Wallace this morning. You know, we all converse not in a adverse way, but in an inspirational, uplifting way. And these are people that choose to be involved. I never had a choice. I was in it. You know, I became part of the group because I had to be.
Yeah.
But external people like Paul Marshall and Flora and Nick Gold and Nick Wallace and all, I hate to just name
No, I know, because you missed James Arbuthnot,
Ron Warmington, Ian Henderson, all these people that have been here by choice. That's the real heroes.
And not for the money.
No,
In none of those cases you mentioned, none of them for the money.
But they're the real heroes because that's a choice that was made. And my hat goes off, to them because that's the real people in this. That's the real people that have changed lives. Because the group, the victims, we had nowhere apart from the group and to continue fighting. But that was a choice for those people.
Yeah, no, they really deserve all the praise they get. I mean, I'll finish off on the future for the Castleton family. Rumour has it that you're doing a bit of public motivational speaking, which is wonderful. Could you become a full-time speaker, or is that just something that's a side hustle? Tell us a bit more about that.
I think it's probably a little bit more of a side hustle, I think. At the moment, I would say that it will have its life, and I don't think it probably will evolve. I'd love it to. I really enjoy it. I don't have any nerves.
Do you ever prepare yourself? Because I noticed you came to this without any paper or...
I've lived it, so I get it.
Okay, all right. And so, what do
do
you get people asking you then questions at the end? And
I really do. Anything. Ask me anything. I love it. I really do. Some people have asked me some really amazing questions.
Right.
And I thrive on that, I think, because it opens my mind as well, things that I've never thought about. And it just lifts you and people really listen. And I think it's wonderful.